Thanks so much for having me today, and thank you to everyone for being here. I introduced myself already, but I'm Liz Middleton. I'm a senior policy analyst and apprenticeship coordinator here with the Workforce Connection of Central New Mexico. I'm on the operations team, and so I sit here at our largest center in Albuquerque, but I'll get into some of the different centers as well. Before I start, I just wanted to mention, since we have some folks from outside of the central region, some of this will be specific to how we do things here. It might work a little bit different in your region, but if you have questions or if you need help contacting the local boards or local workforce connections in your area, feel free to reach out to me and I can help put you in touch with them. So to jump in, I'm going to share some information with everyone today about the Workforce Connection of Central New Mexico, or the WCCNM, as well as some of the programs in our partner network, including the programs that you most probably associate with us, which Martha already mentioned, which is the WIOA, or the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. I know that the local public workforce system can get a little murky. There's so many different programs and services, and everyone loves to use acronyms. So I'm going to start with a really high-level overview of the workforce development system here in Central New Mexico, and then I'll get into some discussion of the many partners that are in our network, as well as some of our larger partner programs and services. Feel free to stop me if you have questions as I go, or if you catch me using an acronym that I haven't defined. I'm going to try really hard not to do that, but feel free to interrupt if I do. And then, of course, we'll have time for questions, and if you want more specific info about any of the programs I mentioned, we can chat about that as well. So, to start at the highest level, I'll start by introducing our WCCNM board. So you might hear folks use the terms board or workforce board interchangeably with region, like the central region or area. So I'm going to try to clarify what all those words mean. So every local workforce region or area, not just in New Mexico, but across the entire country, has a local workforce development board that oversees all the workforce development activities that happen. So here in the central region, the Workforce Connection of Central New Mexico Board oversees the Workforce Partner Network and the federally funded employment and training programs and services in our 4-county region. So that makes up Bernalillo, Sandoval, Torrance, and Valencia counties. We're all part of the central region. With more than 40% of New Mexico's population living in our region, WCCNM is the largest workforce board in New Mexico. And their primary job is to make sure that the workforce-related needs of employers, workers, and also job seekers in the central region are met. And we call the folks that we serve here our customers. We have two main customers that we focus on serving. So individuals who are seeking assistance with employment and training opportunities, as well as employers who need assistance in recruiting and hiring new employees, or in training and upskilling their current workforce. So, WIOA, this is one of the acronyms that gets thrown around a lot. So I just want to spend a minute talking about that. So the WIOA program, the WIOA, that stands for Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. I just caught myself doing it, but sometimes we'll refer to WIOA as a program or a funding stream, but that's not exactly what it is. So WIOA stands for Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which is the big overarching piece of federal legislation that governs workforce development systems and activities in every state across the country. So all of the things that we do, the partners that we work with, the services that we deliver, all of that is guided by WIOA, that big law. We do have some of our big programs here that are mandated by and funded under WIOA. So you might have heard of the WIOA Youth Program, the WIOA Adult Program, the WIOA Dislocated Worker Program. Sometimes we'll shorten that just to WIOA, since Adult and Dislocated Worker Program is a little bit of a mouthful, but really WIOA is just that big law that guides all the work that we do. And then there are separate programs under WIOA, which I'll get into a little bit more. So I mentioned regions before. So WCCNM, our board, is responsible for the partnerships and strategies that are required by WIOA, and that control how we run our American job centers. So again, that's another piece of like legislative lingo. Here in New Mexico, we call those job centers New Mexico Workforce Connection Centers. In the central region, we have one New Mexico Workforce Connection Center in each of our 4 counties. So you can see the addresses here. We have one in Albuquerque, one in Rio Rancho, one in Los Lunas, and one in Moriarty. I sit here on our Albuquerque Center, which is our biggest center, but we do have those buildings in each of the counties. And then in addition to overseeing the 4 New Mexico Workforce Connection Centers in our region, the WCCNM also oversees our larger partner network outside of just our brick and mortar buildings. We work collaboratively and really closely with multiple programs and organizations throughout central New Mexico to better serve job seekers and employers. And so I'll talk more about that too. Right now, we have over 30 different workforce development programs that come together within our partner network. So our partners, like I mentioned, we have a ton of partners in our network. I want to say we're sitting at 33 right now. It fluctuates sometimes, and we're always looking for new partnerships as well. So I'll just briefly go through some of the different types of partners that we have, and then you'll be able to see this is a full list, the next few slides, of all of our current WCCNM partner programs. So we like to use the analogy that the New Mexico Workforce Connection, or the WCCNM, is best described as a mall of employment and education services. So we have lots of different programs and organizations, like some of the ones listed here, that make up our various storefronts, but they all fall under the umbrella of the New Mexico Workforce Connection. So just like if you went to the Cottonwood Mall, the different stores there would be our individual programs, but they're all part of the mall. All of our programs are part of the WCCNM. So we have lots of different programs that come together and are physically housed within those New Mexico Workforce Connection Centers that I mentioned, that can assist with employment, education and training support, and career counseling. So if you walked into our Albuquerque Center, for example, you would see staff from those programs sitting at their desks or meeting with customers or helping folks out in the resource room. And those are our co-located partners. So they sit with us in one of our centers. And then we do have some of our specialized programs that serve specific populations. So some of our programs can work with anyone who walks in the door, but some are really focused. So for example, we have the WIOA Youth Program, which I mentioned, that serves young people aged 14 to 24. Another example is our Veteran Services Program, and they serve veterans, military service members, and their spouses. So these are our co-located partners, but that's not it. So we work with many partner programs that are not physically located in our New Mexico Workforce Connection Centers. So they might sit at their own buildings elsewhere in the Albuquerque area, but we're very closely connected with them, and we work with some of our adult basic education providers. And so they provide things like English and math courses, as well as high school equivalency programs. We have a bunch of those partners right now, as you can see. Another example is DVR, the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. So they don't sit with us in our building at this moment, but we still work really closely with them. We make referrals back and forth. They work with all of our program managers and staff, and they can help provide services and resources to individuals with disabilities who are seeking employment or career assistance. And then just a few more of our partners. As you can see, we have a ton of different programs and resources that offer all sorts of different services to our customers within our partner network. So I won't go through all of these now, but you can see these are some of our additional partners in the community that we work with as our customers need services from them. So I'll also note something really important to us. We don't expect our customers to memorize this list. So we don't expect the customer to walk in and say, I'm interested in on-the-job training with the WIOA adult program, right? You don't need to know all of the programs and services that we offer. It's our job to help folks get started with services and programs, and they don't have to worry about which program to contact. So when individuals come into the center, or they call or send an email or reach out on social media, our welcome desk staff will talk to them about their needs. What are they interested in? What sort of supports are they seeking? You need a job? Are you looking for financial assistance to go back to school? Things like that. And then our staff can refer them to the programs that can help meet those needs. Our staff are really wonderful across all of these partner programs. All of our staff know all of these different programs and what they do. So if a customer comes in and needs services from more than one of these programs, our staff will know who to send them to and how to help them access those wraparound services. And that's a really nice part of having such a wide and robust partner network. There's almost always someone we know that our staff know. If a customer has a need, the staff member knows who to send them to. So just a quick illustration. This is a bunch of the partners that we work with. The partner network is so crucial to what we do. And we love how closely we get to work with so many wonderful organizations here in central New Mexico. So knowing all the programs and organizations that are in our network is great. But what are some of the specific programs and services that can help someone reach their employment and career goals? You saw we have lots of partners in our network. I won't go through all of them right now, although if anyone does have questions or wants contact information for a specific partner or program, please let me know. I'm happy to put you in touch with them or to answer questions afterwards. But I'll just give you a quick overview of a few of our biggest programs. And then, yes, like I said, if you have specific questions, we can chat about those as well. So to start off our career services program, I think our career services team probably sees more of our customers than anyone else. They're often the first stop when someone comes into our center for assistance. So the career services team helps individuals who are looking for employment, thinking about changing jobs, or seeking opportunities maybe in a new career field or on a new career pathway. This includes all kinds of services from career counseling, resume and interview assistance. So if someone has a job interview coming up, they can meet with one of our career consultants, clean up their resume, do a practice interview, talk about what to wear to an interview and etiquette, things like that. Career consultants can also help with applying for jobs. They can show individuals how to use online databases to find jobs that are really a good fit for them and meet their interests. They also host recruitment events here. So we have employers come in on site who sometimes hire on site or interview on site. So folks can attend those events hosted by career services. They offer skills assessments. So if someone's employer requires them to take a test in order to qualify for that job, we could administer some of those tests here, and tons of other stuff. Labor market information. If someone comes in and they're not sure what they want to do, they're just looking for a change, our career services team can sort of pull up some of the data and say, hey, here are the jobs and industries that are growing in central New Mexico. Here's something you might be qualified for. Here's what you need to do in order to get that position. Yes, so that's our career services team. They do tons of stuff. If you walk into our center, they'll probably be the first ones you see, and they're really wonderful. So we talked about WIOA. So one of our big programs is the WIOA Adult and Dislocated Worker programs. So here we combine those two things. In some areas, the adult program is separate from the dislocated worker program. But so really what that means, dislocated worker is sort of another like legalese policy term. But so really what that means is that an individual who is unemployed. And then our adult program serves anyone age 18 or older. But they work with the same staff in our center. So primarily what this program does is provide assistance to individuals who are interested in training and education in order to reach their career goals. So both the adult program and the dislocated worker program can provide up to $9,000 in tuition assistance to individuals who are pursuing a credential leading to an in-demand career or occupation. So for example, there's a list of different occupations and career fields that are in demand right now, and staff are constantly looking at that labor market information, like I mentioned, to make sure that they're sending people into those programs that are in demand. But right now the program can fund education and training, for example, in the healthcare field, IT and technology, construction, transportation, and lots more. And our career development specialists can talk with anyone who's interested and talk them through which programs are eligible for WIOA funding. They're always up to date on that. They know that labor market information really well. So on top of that, if an individual is pursuing multiple credentials, so for example, if someone wanted to get a certificate from an IT boot camp, but then also needed an A+ certification in order to get a job in that field, we call those stackable credentials. And the WIOA program can potentially provide up to $15,000 in funding for education and training assistance if that person is pursuing stackable credentials in an in-demand field. Ooh, sorry about that. So they also offer work-based learning opportunities within the program. So that includes things like on-the-job training. So if the person doesn't necessarily need to go to an academic program, but the employer can train them on the job, WIOA can help pay for that sort of training. They offer transitional jobs for individuals who may have gaps in their work experience, as well as things like internships for students. There's a few other things on this slide. So employed worker training, the WEO program can work with local businesses and employers to help train and upskill current employees at that company, which is really wonderful. And then they also work with apprenticeship programs in the central region, so they can help offset the costs of training apprentices for registered apprenticeship programs. And then we have the WEO Youth Program. So the WEO Youth Program is targeted for individuals who are 14 to 24 years old. They can also provide training and education assistance similar to the Adult and Dislocated Worker Program. On top of that, the youth program, I think the biggest part of what they do, they provide work experience for young people. And so if an individual in the program is interested in gaining some work experience, they'll work with their youth development practitioner to find an employer and a work site near where they live that aligns with their career interests. So for example, if someone's interested in going into healthcare, but maybe they're a sophomore in high school and they're limited in what they can do without training, they can place them in the front office of a doctor's office, or they can find other opportunities that they're qualified for that will help them get experience in that setting and test out whether that might be something that they're interested in. And those work experiences are all paid. And then the participants are typically at the work site for 6 months. So they are there for a long enough period of time to learn skills and really get a feel for what it's like to work in that field or that position. And it's a great opportunity for young people to add work experience to their resume, especially if they don't have much previously. There are tons of other services in the youth program. So they offer things like mentorship and financial literacy. They also help participants study labor market information and do some career exploration and planning, education exploration and planning. But these are just some of the highlights. So, like I mentioned, we have tons of different programs. If you are interested or if you don't work with anyone who is interested, the best way for them to get started with us is just to reach out to our staff. So you can give us a call, check out our website and submit an inquiry. You can send us an email, or you can walk in or make an appointment at any of our centers, whichever is convenient. And that sort of first front desk, welcome desk staff, whoever you get in touch with, will be able to help point you in the right direction. So they'll talk with your needs and your interests, and they'll refer you to the program or the programs that might be a good fit. They'll help you get started, because I know this can be, it's a little intimidating with so many programs and services and acronyms going on. Yeah, so please reach out to us. Like I mentioned, this is specific to the central region, but if anyone is looking for a contact for within their region somewhere else, feel free to reach out and we can put you in touch with them. I think that we have contacts for all of the other regions in the state as well. But yeah, this is how you can get in touch with us if you are in the central region or you're working with someone who resides in the central region. And then just a quick plug, COVID really forced us to expand our virtual presence. And so over the last few years, we've really built up a lot of virtual services and virtual information sharing via our social media channels. So we do, for example, we post hiring and employment events, job opportunities. We stream a hot job series every Friday where employers can submit openings to us, and we'll share those out. We live streamed every Friday. I think we have a podcast now. We have lots of different things going on virtually. Our teams have done a really great job of moving some of their information and recruiting to these platforms. So feel free to check us out. You can connect with us this way as well. And you can also send us a message or comment on things, and our staff can respond to you that way as well. So we try to be accessible through as many different venues and touch points as possible. So that's all. I know that was a lot of information, so I'm happy to take questions now. My contact is here, as well as Joy's. Joy Forehand is our operations manager. She wasn't able to be here today, but you can reach out to either one of us. And if anyone is interested in getting in touch with any of the specific programs that I mentioned, I can give you that contact information as well. But that's all that I have, and I'm happy to take questions now.
Thank you so much, Liz. We really appreciate you sharing that information. And you're right, there's so many partners that you're involved with. So it's really cool to see. And I think many of those partners are here today as well. So
Yeah.
Any questions for Liz? Feel free to raise your hand or come off of mute or type in the chat. I'll go ahead and get us started. So one of my questions would be, how typically does an adult or youth qualify for WIOA funding?
Yeah, great question. I don't want to get too specific because a lot of that depends on where we are in the program year and what's available. Our program staff would be the experts on that, and so you can always reach out to them. The adult program is anyone over the age of 18 who's an adult, with the caveat that sometimes they run out of funding just because they serve the largest population, or sometimes funding can be limited for different things. But the adult program is open to anyone who's 18 or older. Dislocated worker program is specifically geared towards individuals who are unemployed with the keyword through no fault of their own. And so that would just be someone who is eligible for unemployment insurance. And again, these are things that program staff can walk individuals through. They don't have to know exactly how all of that shakes out. And then for the youth program is geared towards serving young people with barriers to employment. And so there's a variety of different qualifiers that they use, but that can just be anything that would cause a young person to need a few extra supports. So youth experiencing homelessness or in foster care, pregnant and parenting youth, low-income youth. There's a variety of other sort of qualifiers that the programs use, but that's generally who it's geared towards. And we do serve both in school and out of school youth. And again, that's through age 24. Sometimes participants don't realize that they're young enough to still qualify for the youth program, but they can participate in that up to age 24. And if they're over 18, they can participate in both youth and adult programs and receive funding from both of those if there's services that they want from each of those programs.
Thank you. And we had a few questions in the chat. And so the first one is, are there any specific immigration status qualifications to be eligible for WIOA?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so for WIOA specifically, WIOA is federal funding. And so there are some restrictions on immigration status. I believe that individuals do have to provide proof of citizenship to qualify for the adult dislocated worker and the youth program that I mentioned that are under WIOA. But that's not necessarily the case for all of our partner programs. That would apply to the federally funded programs. But if you are working with someone who is not a citizen right now, or maybe is in a mixed status household, there might be other programs we can work with or refer them out to that can provide similar services.
Any other questions that are coming up?
I've got a question about long-term plans. I attended a massive rollout of Workforce Connections and the Workforce Solutions 5-year master plan at the convention center that was like 3 weeks before COVID shut the state down. I thought, it was heartbreaking to listen to all of the work that had gone into this master plan, and then probably everything was just thrown into the wind 3 weeks later. Is there a plan to, like, sometime within the next year revamp that draft? I assume we're not probably trying to work from the plans that were made before everything was kind of thrown against the wall.
Yeah, and you raised another point that I meant to mention, so thank you for jogging my memory. So I do want to note sometimes, so there's the Department of Workforce Solutions, which is the state labor agency, and then we're the Workforce Connection of Central New Mexico, and so we work on the local level. And I know it's like a very similar name, and so folks kind of use those interchangeably sometimes. But so things that are happening with DWS apply to the whole state. Whereas things that we do here, we can kind of do our own thing and set our own priority. And create policies that fit with our specific local economy here in the central region. And so I don't know if I was at the specific event that you're mentioning, so I'm not sure if that was a state level plan or a local plan.
It was sorry, can I interject? It was a state level plan. So this is Rebecca. And I sit, so again, as Liz is talking about, she's with the central workforce. I sit on the northern area local workforce development board, and we have our own in the northern part of the state Workforce Connections. And so what you're talking about was, and I was at that convening, And it was a Department of Workforce Solutions. Yolanda Cordova Montoya, who's the deputy secretary, is the one who led it, one of the people who led it. And so the short answer is yes, they are looking at rethinking that. The other thing, though, that came out of some of that work that still ended up happening was there is a state. So again, so we have the regional local workforce development boards, but we also have a state workforce development board, and they are meeting regularly. I think I can put the, if I'm savvy enough, I can put the link to their regular meetings in the chat. And they are talking about exactly what you're talking about. They were looking at some redesigns for the state. They were looking at a few things in terms of that strategic planning. I'll be remiss if I say that I'm completely caught up. I am not, but the state workforce board is choosing to kind of look at some of that stuff. I don't know where the redesign conversation ended. I think some of that might still actually be happening. And so that is where that work that you're talking about would happen. That's the statewide Department of Workforce Solutions with the state workforce board.
Yes, thank you, Rebecca. And that was a great point to bring up the state workforce board. They're actually meeting next Thursday, the 4th. I believe that's their next meeting. And so if I can dig up that information, I can pass that along maybe to Martha as well. You wanted to send that out to everyone. And I'll just mention really quickly here in the central region. So we have a local plan, which we update is totally redone every 4 years, but then we update every 2 years. And so we are right now in the process of updating our local plan. And so staff are going through labor market information and workforce data, just to see what COVID has done and figure out what the state of things are now, and then figure out how we move forward and which of our policies that we set in 2020 before we knew what COVID would bring need to be changed. So we're working on that right now.
And we have another question in the chat. Are the youth internships only during the summer?
Great question. No, they are not only during the summer. So there is the big sort of youth summer work experience internship program happening right now, but WEO youth participants can do internships and work experience at any time. They do that. Yeah, there's no time restriction. The summer program is sort of a special funding stream that popped up, but you can participate that at any point in the year. Mm-hmm.
Awesome, thanks.